talking with my best friend. I told her I had kissed a boy and I wanted to do it again. She said, let's go see my big sister. Well, maybe she can talk some sense. She's in a world of trouble, and she's the voice of experience. Her sister told us, look, before you leave, you might find yourself in way too deep. There may be danger that you can't see. You better look before you leave.
As far as being a girl who draws comics, like I always get asked, what is it like to be a woman who draws comics? And my experience hasn't been, as far as I can tell, any different than like my peers, but I'm also not involved in like a subgenre that is like overly male dominated. I don't know if you guys would agree, because I feel like we all kind of draw more indie comics. So I guess, you know, people are always looking for some kind of like inherent sexism, and I just kind of feel like the most sexist thing that happens is I get asked that question.
I was illustrating a comic for Anna Elizabeth Moore for Lady Drawers, which is this comic that's out on truthout.org, and I think all of my comics they're autobiographical, and so they're feminist because I am feminist, but I guess I didn't really get the anti-female vitriol until I started reading all of the statistics about things that actually are affected in the alternative comics industry as well as the mainstream. Although, and she even debunked some myths that said that the indie comics like hire more women. They actually don't. In fact, it's actually worse in some of them. So that was interesting, but also when I illustrated something for her, and it was just a bunch of statistics, which was really hard to illustrate, but I did that, and I was checking the comments, and they were just really angry guys, like so defensive about it, and I'm like, dude, we're just, you know, they're just statistics, make what you will of them. But I think that was the first time I cried from a comment, because they were just so mean about like, oh, you just can't, obviously you can't draw, and that's why you have to do this, and I'm like, they pay me. So, I mean, sexism is out there, but I don't think I realized it until I started talking about it.
Well, that's true. That's something you kind of have to tread lightly with. I think, like most other women comic book artists, or you want to be treated like a comic book artist, not like a woman comic book artist. You just want to be treated like this is what you do. But unfortunately, yeah, it becomes a lot about like how does that make you different, because it is still rare, which is unfortunate, but it still seems like it definitely hasn't evened out. So I've only found really there to be a big negative problem when, like you said, like forums or blogs with comments. There's been a lot recently about female images in a lot of the mainstream comics, like how they're always positioned, like every single position is sexual, and then there's been a lot of great kind of retellings where they put the male superheroes in the same poses as the women, just to show you how ridiculous it is. But that's the only place I've really seen a big backlash, is that people get really defensive, even if anytime you bring up like feminism, people are like, oh, hang on, you know, they get really, really defensive. So. Other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I find all that really interesting. So, like, you were kind of talking about not being in really what you would consider like a super masculine area. So, like, do you think that maybe does that have anything to do with it? Like, do you think that like women comics in those arenas, or who are trying to tackle those, might have more or less difficulty? Like, do you think it's like expected of women in comics to write girly comics? I'm asking this actually for me. I don't want to write girly comics.
I mean, I don't even know what really constitutes a girly comic. A lot of people have like just straight up asked me like, oh, are all of your fans women? And actually, like, I feel like I get more guys coming up to me at conventions saying that they like my work. But I mean, I've always been kind of a tomboy, so I don't know if I speak for like the gentler side of the gender. If someone up here wants to help me with that.
I don't think my comics are particularly girly, even though they are about relationships and romance, but they're not romantic. I kind of think my comics are a little gender neutral, actually, because I mean, the stories that I tell, like, I'm not a tomboy, but I've got a lot of masculine elements to me, and I've always been very taken a more masculine attitude towards sex, which is a lot about what my book's about, and I don't know, so my audience seems to be kind of split 50-50 also. But when I was going through the publishing of this book with Harper Perennial, it seemed like they really wanted to get like the girls, you know, to read this stuff, and every time I'd get like a bad Goodreads review from a girl that was in my target audience, I'd be all sad. But there were all these guys who are like in their 50s who are really into the book, so I'm like, and they're so not my target audience according to Harper Perennial, so it was very exciting. I mean, I don't understand when people are so focused on targeting audiences.
Yeah, like I would always want to write comics for what I would think people like me would identify with, but it's never the case. Like most people who read my books are the opposite of me, which is kind of interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can really target, because I'll see all the time at comic conventions, especially women, because I rarely get women like buying my stuff. I see them and I'm like, oh, well, she kind of looks like someone I'd be friends with. Maybe she'll come buy my book, and that never happens.
Oh, I hate that.
It's so strange. Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Okay, so actually, you all write like autobiographical stuff, and that's kind of, so do all of you find that it's not necessarily like the people that you expect to be your audience are? Or that you're like surprised by people that read your work?
With a 50-year-old man, I do. Every time I see some girl who's dressed really cute and she passes by or like picks up my book and then puts it down, I always get a little bummed. But so yes.
I think that I've done a pretty good job of like, I mean, I still get a lot of people buying my books and I'm really surprised that that person is interested. But I'm less surprised about that now since I've just been doing this for so long. But I think I've done a really good job of kind of putting my own personal interests into my work as such that I kind of get like a lot of freelance projects from like punk bands and things like that I'm interested in, and drawing comics for the website If You Make It, which is like a free music website, and Razor Cake magazine kind of like tailored my audience a little more towards my like specific interests.
You can take things? Go for it.
In doing autobio, it's always kind of interesting what you choose to share and not to share anyway. That's kind of an interesting thing that you have to go through, deciding like what parts are important to you and what parts aren't. And so I think by just choosing what interests or what part of your personality you're going to show is really going to tell you the audience that you're going to get back. Like when you see who's interested in it, it's really interesting because they're kind of little parts of you people identify with.
That's actually a really good point. Is a lot of people have recently been asking me where I find the courage to be so honest and like, oh, you tell everything about yourself. I'm like, well, no, I don't. There's like tons of stuff that I've never drawn a comic about and I never will. But you know, it's all, I guess, your threshold for embarrassment. It's like exceptionally high or something.
I get that a lot. But it's actually encouraged me, and when I came to the same conclusions, I'm like, God, I hide so much, you know, and this is very specific. It's actually encouraged me to be bolder and tell more embarrassing things about myself, because I'm like, how far can I go without, like, imploding?
When I was just a little wide-eyed child, trying to beat the heat.
Listen to your woman, but not closely.